Welcome if you're watching. Oh, I still have a mask attached to my elbow. Welcome if you're watching on YouTube, and feel free to chat in and say hello. Welcome in the room. I'm so honored and glad you're here. It's 7:30, so we'll get started. We'll begin with some centering and a short meditation just to land ourselves here in this moment, in this place, wherever you happen to be, and let that be as if it's a luxury. I truly feel that way sometimes, that just landing in presence in a moment and really feeling the full weight of beingness, the full magnificence of beingness is quite luxurious, because we don't do it that often. We're just going. In fact, one friend who's here with us this evening, she walked into the studio and I was at the desk and I was just like, hi, I'm just trying to finish something up right up until 7:25. And here we are. So let's be here. Take a deep breath, a long, steady inhale, and a smooth, easy exhale. Check the chat. And feel the weight of your seat dropping. And feel the buoyancy of your spine rising. And feel all of that space from bottom to top and back to bottom that is receptive to the inhales and just as easily generous, giving to the exhales. And the more space we can create, the more receptive and generous we can be. So we can take what arrives and release what departs. And in this moment, that's just breath. You may notice sensation arise in various joints in your limbs or in your trunk, maybe in your face. Be receptive to the understanding that you've noticed that, and be generous and giving with yourself to allow an exhale potentially to soften those tense places. Let the breath cooperate with your intention to be spacious from top to bottom, to be simultaneously receptive and generous. And then in that way, we can cooperate reciprocally with the breath. And even if you're not feeling particularly luxurious in this moment, just pretend for a split second that this is the most luxurious thing you've ever done in your life, is to just pause for the magnificent exchange that happens every second of your life. Approach this moment as if you've just stumbled upon the Taj Mahal and you say, oh my, look at that. Look at me here right now, present, attentive, alive. How lucky we are. And the intrusive, rational mind is going to answer with a list of reasons why you're not lucky. Make space for that too. And recognize the luxurious miracle of an awakened, conscious, fully present awareness that can recognize that that's just a small piece, a naggy voice. When that voice intrudes for any reason, name it, know it, and then return again to a simple awareness of breath in and out. Conjure up the luxurious miracle again. My goodness, look at me making this time for myself. How lucky we are. Just another couple of minutes for this round. Noticing space. That's both receptive and generous. Take 3 more steady breaths in and out. Last one. And then just gently shift your body a little bit, bring your mind back to this moment if it flew away, as it is bound to do. Tonight, I want to talk about the difference between indifference and non-attachment. In order to fully appreciate that difference, we need to talk about attachment first. And its twin aversion, 2 sides of the same coin. So the word attachment means a bond or a connection or an affectionate regard for something. I looked it up today in my Webster's dictionary that I still use from the bookshelf. I put my hands on the page because I feel like that brings me more into the moment. I mean, it would take me far less time to just look it up, right? But I like to open the dictionary. It's where I start with everything. So what I learned from my trusty old Webster's is that the word attachment comes from the Old French for to arrest for contempt of court, to put somebody in jail, to take custody of somebody else is attachment in its original meaning. And I thought, well, say no more. That's exactly it. It is an imprisonment of sorts when we are operating from a place of attachment. And we can quickly get to an understanding of that and a full appreciation for the magnitude of what that means by swapping out the word attachment and putting in the word addiction. And whether the addiction is in some sort of like socially acceptable realm of like shopping, or I'm addicted to watching too much TV, I'm addicted to Netflix, I'm addicted to those sorts, all the way to the really destructive, addictive behaviors, drugs and alcohol, and sex and gambling, the things that take people's lives down. But all of them are on a spectrum of of sort of shutting us off from the world when we are in that place of attachment. And the flip side, the twin of attachment or addiction, is aversion, because it is really rooted in a way, um, as a way of avoiding something else. So when we're clinging to or running towards something, we are pushing the opposite thing away. We're running away from it. And so in the end, it just becomes a way of avoiding really feeling into the present fullness of life. It's the thing that prevents us from saying, my gosh, this is a miracle. Look at me right here, right now, able to breathe, able to take a moment to stop at the wonder of my life. So we can't do that when we're in this prison of attachment and addiction, or in its twin, aversion. Now, I also want to distinguish attachment from desire, because desire is a fully human necessity. We have to want things. There's no existence without desire. Literally, we have to want two people who have the ability to procreate together have to want each other. There has to be some desire to create life. And and even beyond that, the we know the world through its forms, through the manifestation of things. And so the ocean has this desire almost to form waves so that we know it in that way, right? We perceive connections through these forms. The trees, there's an innate, not human, but very much alive desire to rise up and grow toward the heavens, and to root down and find the connections that the roots are making underneath the earth, and connecting, communicating with each other. So desire is a healthy human behavior. So we've got attachment and aversion in one corner, and in all of the ways that they can be destructive in our lives, or can imprison us, or can prevent us from feeling the full presence of meaning, of life force. And then in the other corner, we have indifference, completely completely separated. So the prison has become so overwhelming that we no longer even know how to care. We're disconnected, we're absent, we're negligent. We don't tend to ourselves, and we certainly don't tend to each other. And it can be a very natural byproduct of attachment and aversion, because they can have this numbing effect. Right? So because we might be so attuned to our own immediate pleasure and pain or avoidance that we've just lost the ability to make any meaningful bonds. So we are disconnected, we are indifferent. And just shy of indifference, when we're still in this place of like clinging and looking for meaning, it's as if we approach every human interaction with an unspoken question of like, what can you do for me right now? It's like we say, how are you? But we don't want to listen to the answer. We we want them to say, how are you? And then we make it about us, you know. And for a self-actualized person, or an awake or an aware person, this tendency is a big red flag. And and there can be a boundary, a healthy boundary that goes up. So the person who has been looking for the clinging, looking for the attachment, looking for the sticky moment of being defined or affirmed by another person gets pushed further to the corner, further into the dark, further into the disconnect. And in fact, the fewer real human abiding bonds we're able to create in our lives, the more fierce is our desire, the more clingy we get, and then the more disconnected we get, because nothing can stick firmly enough when we're in this imbalanced place. So in order to make true connections that sustain life force, we have to have a meeting of these two energies that become one and literally the source of life. So we have to choose not to be indifferent and to actually say, this is different than that. And I choose this. So it's not indifference. It, in fact, is a discerning quality, a clear, conscious quality of like, yes, I'm going to choose to sit here and revel in the miracle and mystery of my life and find an appreciation of this moment. As simple as a breath in and the ability to receive, and the breath out and the ability to generously give. Remember the days when people used to ask for directions on the street? Nobody does that anymore because we've all got our devices to tell us, right? And recently, a few times in the last few weeks, I've seen people and heard people together on the corner saying like, I think it's that way. No, I'm not sure. Maybe it's that way. And they're looking and they're trying to figure out, which way the blue dot is moving on Google Map so you can know which direction you're walking. And I have so wanted, and it's been in my neighborhood, places that I know well. And I have so wanted to go up to the people and say, what are you looking for? I could tell you. I could tell you right away if you're going the right direction. And I don't, not because I'm indifferent, but because because I don't want them to feel embarrassed. So there's that weird, I know you're looking at me like, why? Why would you feel it? Just jump in, right? Should I just jump in? I don't know. There's something about it that makes me feel a little bit separated. But so the point of bringing it up, all right, next time I'm just going to go and ask, right? I'll let you know how it goes, Victoria. The reason I'm bringing this up is like if you see somebody on the street, let's say we're pre-device time, right? And who genuinely needs help. And indifference is just to walk by and not think about it at all. An attachment is to want to help them, but really just to prove to ourselves that we know what we know. So there's a little bit of like a superiority drive there. And an aversion is to think that person is less than us because we know more than they know. But a true connection, right? A true non-attachment is to offer assistance, to see if it's received, and then to move along. That's sort of a benign example. I'll give another example that's not so benign, that's a little more sticky for the heart. And that's when a friend, and I don't mean a romantic friend, I just mean a friend, a close friend says, doesn't answer a text. We're back in device times, right? back in the moment, doesn't answer a text or respond quickly or doesn't pick up our call. And we can't reach them for a while and we've made an effort and we don't hear back, and then we start to take it personally. We start to to personalize it and wonder, what did we do? And then start to come up with all kinds of reasons why, well, it wasn't a true friendship anyway, like all these stories we tell each other. And then at some point the person perhaps does reach out and says, I'm sorry I didn't answer your texts. I'm sorry I didn't call you back or pick up your calls. I was in a really dark place. I needed some space. And that's a connection. And that's a place where we can practice this really often difficult quality of non-attachment, to realize it wasn't about me, it was them. And by holding back, giving space, not creating a story that others or dismisses or demeans the person, we have made a true bond, a heart connection that has allowed them to take the space they needed, to take the time they needed. That's non-attachment. It's not caring. It's very much caring. It's very much honoring the needs of the other person. And that's a good example of non-attachment as opposed to indifference. All right. So I want to take some time and do a little practice. I want you to bring a person to mind who is easy in your life, an easy person to be with, a trusted friend that you know you can always count on, or a close family member that doesn't carry around the baggage that so many family members do. My family is wonderful, in case they're watching. They are. Bring to mind an easy person. And acknowledge your affection for them and your love for them. And then notice any sensations that arise around that affection, that easiness. Take a few breaths with the sensation of that easiness that this person may conjure for you, or this person might inspire for you. The people who are easy in my life always manage to make me laugh. And so I'm feeling like the residue of laughter inside, as an example of a sensation you might experience. And now picture them at a significant distance away from you. Maybe they are. Maybe they live in a different town or a different part of the world. Maybe right now they just feel a little distant, but just notice that space. Feel into that space. Maybe their rhythm of life these days is quite different than yours. Maybe you could synchronize your rhythms a little bit across that space, just in your awareness. And and then reaffirm that affection, that love. And notice the sensations again around that. And feed those sensations with your present moment breath. Receive the breath into that mix of experience and then release back out. Be generous with the exhale. Be generous with the space that you create in releasing a simple out breath. And now, if it's easy and if it feels safe, can you bring to mind somebody who was easy in your life who has passed? Somebody who is no longer living but lives beautifully and warmly in your heart. I'm calling in my mother right now. And feel or acknowledge your affection and love for them. And notice the sensations that arise. And within those sensations of the easiness and the love that you felt when they were here on earth, there may be grief or anger or pain in the loss. And there's room for that too, because we are receptive and generous inside. Embrace those uneasy feelings with the affection, with the ease, with the love. And so this is true non-attachment. To be able to bridge the space between the easy, affectionate sensations that arise and the grief or the anger or the pain or the loss when things aren't as we would choose them to be. Just take a few more breaths here with that. Bring your awareness back. Long, steady breath in and out. So, the Sanskrit word for non-attachment is vairagya, and it is the partner in the two-pillared practice that is described in the Yoga Sutras as abhyasa, which is being on your point of focus, being fully present, being fully aware, and vairagya, which is non-attachment, which means you're finding your way back to that place. So this is a paradigm that doesn't echo a good or bad or right or wrong. It simply reflects that there is presence, there is right here, right now, and clarity of mind and purpose and openness of heart that is true connection, that is a true bond. And there is everywhere else we can be. In each of those other places, have a path back. This place of vairagya and abhyasa, of detaching from the distractions or from the stickiness of our sensory lives and our desires that get us imprisoned, and the practice of awareness that is expansive, where the sense preferences are few and fewer and fewer and fewer, so we can see clearly what's arising in the moment and abide its presence and all of its impermanent truth, and all of that flourishes. And it's a place where we don't set contingencies on our happiness, that we're not saying, well, I'll be happy when this is over. Sound familiar? I'll be fine as soon as blah, 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 blah. And then also, I love you, but I wish you would blankety blank blank. Vairagya and abhyasa, the finding our way back to this moment of clarity, stops the sentence at I love you, turns the sentence of I'll be fine when into I am fine. Because if we set those contingencies on our happiness and our well-being on external circumstances that are way beyond our control, including every single behavior of every other human being in the world, then we're setting ourselves up for failure. And that's not true happiness, that's attachment. I have a friend who comes from a really big, tight-knit family, like 6 kids, and all have partners and kids themselves, and it's just, they're a country unto themselves. And my friend really struggles because as close as she is to her siblings, she is not so fond of a few of their partners. She really struggles with the the in-laws. And it's it's a it's a daily challenge because this family is so intertwined. Like, the group text situation is just an ongoing ticker tape of who's doing what and where the kids are and what people are eating and when the next family meal is, and there's so many birthdays and every single birthday gets celebrated. So it's both joyous and full and active and also a lot. And her attachment to her family is is simultaneously a true, abiding, deep bond of love and affection and appreciation, and it's sticky, and she gets caught in the prison of wishing that the partners of the siblings would be different. And her ability, to see, which often she can, to see underneath what she perceives as all of their inadequacies and shortcomings and faults, is really the same simple soul longing for true connection. She knows that underneath these people who have their issues, that they're just as thirsty for true bonds as she is. And so, in the moments where she can afford them that space to be who they are, warts and all, um, there have been experiences where the tension can ease. And then all of a sudden, they're not so troublesome. They're not so annoying. They're okay. Because she's recognized the true bond that's underneath the stickiness of wanting them to be a certain way. In the great seminal yogic text, the Bhagavad Gita, a respected teaching worldwide, we have the story of the young warrior who is reluctant to go into battle because he's afraid of the way it's going to turn out, because he realizes that he is facing members of his own family and friends that he grew up with. And lucky for him, the driver of his chariot happens to be the incarnation of God in the form of Krishna, the great wise one, who teaches him that he must proceed with the battle and let go of his attachments to the result. And in that act, he will see and find true peace. He will know that all of what was meant to be will be. And all he has to do is uphold his corner of the world, is to just draw his own arrow back and nobody else's. And the arrow will land in just the right place at just the right time, as long as he lets go of his attachment to the results. Krishna says, some believe they are the slayers and some believe they are the slain, but none of them are correct. The true self does none of that. The true self simply sees the connection, the deep bond of all things, is unattached to the details, not indifferent. The indifferent part is him, this young warrior, refusing to go to battle because he can't face it. Krishna says, set your heart upon your work, but never its reward. And so action is always required. And true freedom is to cling to nothing at all as me or mine. True freedom that sets us out of that imprisonment of attachment, that that fixes the arrest situation that we've gotten ourselves into, is when we recognize what we cannot manage, what we cannot control, what we cannot change. Recognize that so few of those things are ever about us to begin with. And return to the true and real memory of the sensations of affection and care for ourselves, so we can be receptive and generous in what we offer others, so that every interaction is an offering and not a seeking to gain something from it. So for our last period of sitting, we'll do about 12 more minutes. If you can identify, if it feels safe, to identify the thing that feels like your inner prison, the place where you get arrested. Note that. And then from there, with a fully receptive inhale, just take one step outside that space. And with a generous exhale, take another step. And regard the metaphorical prison structure as a fleeting small detail relative to the fullness of your presence, of your glorious, connected inner life force. And let that propel you step by step, breath by breath. Picture yourself walking toward expansive, acknowledged, loving presence. As thoughts begin to intrude, as they will, notice which ones feel sticky, which ones are there to arrest you, to pull you back into that constrained place. And recognize that they are small in relationship to the larger field of your consciousness. You and we are so much bigger than those pesky little arresting officers in our mind. And the breath is our key to unlock that door and walk free. Receptive for inhale and generous with exhale. Just about 3 more minutes to give and receive in this spacious place of freedom, breath, and awareness, in this miraculous moment of presence. Just take 3 more breaths. And as you exhale next, just gently drop your chin toward your chest and your chest up toward your chin, expanding the place of heart center. And Perhaps if you'd like to join your palms together in front of your heart. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings find ways to be free from the prison of attachment and out into the miraculous presence of freedom. May all beings be at peace. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. I hope you have a wonderful evening,